Hello, and welcome to the Feeling Good podcast, where you can learn powerful techniques to change the way you feel. I am your host, Rhonda Borowski, and joining me here in the Murrieta studio is Dr. David Burns. Dr. David Burns is a pioneer in the development of cognitive behavioral therapy and the creator of the new TEAM therapy. He is the author of Feeling Good, which has sold over 5 million copies in the United States and has been translated into over 30 languages. David is currently an emeritus adjunct professor of clinical psychiatry at Stanford University School of Medicine.
Hello, Rhonda.
I don't know why that's funny. Hello, David.
Hello, Jeremy.
Hi.
Who's Jeremy?
Who is Jeremy? Could you please introduce Jeremy?
How did I end up here?
Did you say something about being an alien dropped down from the
Something like that. It's
another
very
planet?
confusing.
A special mystery guest. We'll reveal his full name and purpose in just a moment. But first, Rhonda has some just really fantastic endorsements to read.
Yeah, some really fun ones.
Yeah, feedback from listeners, I guess.
This is from Tim, and he writes, Thanks for helping me through your books. Your books, Feeling Good and the Feeling Good Handbook, saved me from a life of misery and depression. My dad gave me a copy of Feeling Good 25 years ago when I was 28. I had struggled with depression and low self-esteem since my teens, despite years of therapy. Even though I've been depression-free for most part since my late 20s, at times I still grapple with perfectionism and negative thoughts and must reread parts of your books and work things out in my mood diary. It's incredible how our negative thoughts, cognitive distortions, and silent assumptions can cause us needless misery. The other day I was reflecting on how depressed I was in my teens and 20s and how I could have avoided all that misery if I had known about cognitive therapy. I don't know what would have become of me if my father hadn't given me a copy of Feeling Good 25 years ago. You saved me from a life of misery and despair. I'll always be grateful for your help. Warmest regards.
Well, thank you so much, Tim. That's very, very touching.
Yeah, it's really touching.
Deeply appreciated.
Yeah. Hi, Dr. Burns. The conversation at the end of podcast episode 169 with Michael Simpson has been on my mind now for days. Dave Freibush and Michael didn't seem to think the enlightenment you talked about is the same as the Buddhist concept of enlightenment, but I have to respectfully disagree. I've had a lot of highs in my life, some drug-induced, and nothing I've experienced has come close to the high I felt at your summer intensive this year. In fact, I would say I'm still in and out of enlightenment. I find so much beauty in life and in people now, not 100% of the time, but far more than before. Others have noticed this in me and commented on it. I am eternally grateful for the work you do.
Thank you so much for that. What was her name?
Her name was Jess.
What, Jessica?
Jessica.
Jessica, okay, yeah. Well, thank you for that, Jessica, and I agree with you and really appreciated the support. In my new book that we'll talk about in a couple of minutes here, Feeling Great, I actually talk about 4 forms of enlightenment. There are 4 great deaths of the self, not the one that the Buddha talked about. But yes, I think what you can achieve through TEAM-CBT, or what we're calling Feeling Great therapy, is a high-speed way of achieving the exact kind of enlightenment that the Buddha was talking about 2,500 years ago.
Right. And
the technique in TEAM, externalization of voices with the acceptance paradox, is the technique that can bring that about really, really quickly for many people.
Right. Okay, here's the last one. It's really brief. Hi, David. I'm probably repeating myself, but I would like to express my gratitude for all the help you have given me through your website, podcasts, and books. Life is an unavoidable turd fest at times, but you have given me the pitchfork, wheelbarrow, and the knowledge to turn the turds into compost. That's from Dave.
That's the best.
No, that's from someone named Michael. Mike.
This is Mike, huh?
Yeah.
That's the best
best
endorsement ever. The
pitchfork
turn your
wheelbarrow.
turds into compost. But there was one other, a fellow who I promised I would read his. We would read his endorsement.
Not the Turd Fest? Well, Jess and Tim's, the one we read today?
Yeah, let me just see, make sure, can I see them all?
Yeah.
Make sure we've got the the right one. And that's Jessica, and then that's this fellow. So Mike and Tim. Yeah, it was probably Tim, but it's just very touching when people express such kindness and warmth. It's also kind of neat when the podcasters are stimulating intellectual dialogue and thoughts and learning. We have one we can maybe read on a future podcast that we just got from our colleague Mark Noble, the famed neurosurgeon from Rochester, and he was apparently very moved by the one recently on sadness as celebration, and we can go into that and read his on a future.
Okay, let's read that next week.
Yeah. Well, who's this guy?
I know we could play What's That Line?
Yeah.
What's that?
I remember that TV show. Yeah, that was cool.
You just ask a bunch of questions until we figure it out. Yeah. Or you could just tell us.
Yeah.
Sure, I'll just tell us. I'm Jeremy Karmel, and I'm happy to be here today. I can tell a little bit about my story and how I ended up in this room. Would that be a good thing to do?
Sure, and let me just preface it by saying that you and I were working on this app today.
Yeah.
And Rhonda, you were coming over, and I said, well, maybe Jeremy will sit in and participate in one of our podcasts. And then we thought, well, why not do a little podcast on some of the work that we've been doing? But first, tell us what how did you happen to materialize in this room?
Yeah, it was pretty incredible. I think I was beamed from another planet. No, that's not true at all. The way I got kind of involved in team therapy was as a patient. At the end of college, I got just incredibly depressed. I was at Stanford, and I was really down. I actually took a pause and dropped out for a quarter, and I was trying different things to feel better. I was on antidepressants. I went to at least 2 other therapists to get help. And after months of trying these different approaches, wasn't really any better off than I had been at the beginning of the process, which was pretty disappointing. And then just by incredible good fortune, I got referred to Matt May, who David trained in team therapy.
Matt May is amazing.
Yes, he's totally awesome. And I went and I had I started seeing Matt. We did 2-hour sessions together, and I was dramatically improved after 3 or 4 sessions. I really probably wouldn't even have counted as depressed anymore. And that happened in the course of about 2 weeks. After months of struggles and trying other things. So
wait, Jeremy. After months of struggles, 2 other therapists, antidepressants, you worked with Matt May for 2 weeks, for several sessions, 2 hours long.
Yes, that's right.
And the result was
I was no longer depressed anymore, and it was just amazing. I couldn't believe it, to be honest. And I thought, well, I had a lot of thoughts. I thought, why was I banging my head against the wall with all these other things that were so ineffective, and why isn't this better known? Why is it so hard to, if there was a simple solution to this problem, why was it so hard to find it?
Wow.
But I thought the therapy was amazing. And I continued to learn some other things from Matt. He taught me the 5 secrets of effective communication that David developed. And he's just been an awesome resource. But after that experience, I just thought this stuff is so amazing. And I actually reached out to David at that time. I was still a Stanford student. I had some engineering skills, and I said, I think what you've done here with this new form of therapy is just really unbelievable, and a lot of people, millions of people, could really benefit from it. Would you ever want to turn this into an application?
You mean an app for your smartphone?
An app initially I think it was 10 years ago, so smartphones were still somewhat new, but I think initially I was thinking maybe just a website, and I wasn't super skilled at the time. I was just getting out of school, so I wasn't a high-speed app developer with a lot of commercial experience. But I reached out to David, and that was the first time we connected, and the timing wasn't right on his end for a variety of reasons. But that was when we first connected.
Before we talk about that, can I just ask you one more question about your work with Matt?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you said that was 10 years ago?
Yes.
And has the depression returned?
Well, there have been many times since then when I felt down or sad, but I think what's been amazing is I can just pop out of it really quickly. I think I'm much less prone to those feelings, having those feelings in the first place. And then if I do have those feelings, if they return, I've got some tools that help me get back on track really fast. Probably about 5 or 6 weeks ago, I'd been doing really, really well in life, and then I just woke up in the middle of the night feeling incredibly anxious. And I walked over to my computer and I pulled up the daily mood log and did a daily mood log, and all of the negative feelings went to zero after about 15 minutes, and I fell back asleep, had a great sleep, and went back to kicking ass. After that, there have been times when it's a little more challenging, and I've gone in for tune-ups, and that's been really useful, and I'm happy that like I have MAD as a resource for that. That's been great. But I think I've been way less prone to negative feelings since then. And in fact, a lot of people I've worked with have commented that I seem incredibly emotionally resilient in the face of huge swings in business and things like that. I've had plenty of challenging things happen to me in my life since that time. But I think I feel like I'm able to handle them really, really well. And I think part of it is that I think the techniques are amazing and powerful for changing the way you feel. But one thing that David talks about sometimes is that the techniques are also a philosophy of life. And I think that once you understand that at a deeper level, it makes it's much, much easier to be happy day to day. Things just don't bother you as much.
Yeah.
So it was definitely an incredible experience. And I think maybe just on a different dimension, the 5 secrets communication techniques have also been incredibly useful. I have I'm getting married in June, and my fiance and I have a really good relationship. I think a lot of our friends are pretty jealous, to be honest. And she actually said to me just 2 days ago, "Hey, I think maybe we should buy everyone who comes to the wedding a copy of Feeling Good Together and distribute it because it could be so helpful to folks." So I think there's the team therapy and the 5 secrets have really changed my life, and it's been pretty amazing.
What I would also say that now that we're sitting down together almost on a daily basis, as often as we can, to try to develop this new app, to me you're like a transformed human being, like a Buddha, really, because just being around Jeremy is just a constant source of joy. He uses a lot of stroking, a lot of encouragement. So, and then what percentage of the time do we spend giggling?
For at least 80%.
Yeah, we just giggle constantly.
Yeah.
And it's just a joyous experience. But what we're doing, we're trying to develop together now. We're try to make it a reality. This feeling great app, and we'll try to suck you into the project too if we can, Rhonda.
Can we just have one final comment about therapy?
Yeah.
I mean, to me, what you've described is successful therapy. And it doesn't mean that your life is going to always be happy and you'll never have another challenge and you're going to be just skating along on fluffy clouds forever.
Yeah.
But, because challenges come up in life. You have a fight with your fiance, or your business something happens, or who knows, you're just depressed because you're reading the newspaper. But you have what you said is you have the tools.
Yeah,
like you can
that's
wake
right.
up in the middle of the night and feel anxious and do something and then go back to sleep, or you have the 5 secrets, or that to me that's what defines helpful
Buddha wrote that
therapy.
2,500 years ago in his opening sentence in the Tibetan Book of the Dead, which he said, "Life sucks," because we get kicked in the stomach a lot.
Right, that's one of the four noble truths.
Is that right? Okay.
Life is suffering.
Yeah.
He didn't write the Tibetan Book of the Dead, which came out like about 800
No, but
years
he
later.
did say that
It's really dorky, by the way.
Yeah.
The Tibetan Book of the Dead. Somebody gave me a copy. It's so stupid.
But it's beautiful.
But the ideas of Buddhism are
Is that life
very,
is full of suffering, and what you're talking
really
about is
cool.
when life has been suffering for you, you have the tools to deal with it.
Yeah, it's been really great, and I think I'm much less likely to have a problem than I was before too. I think I'm just happier much greater percentage of the time.
That's what Jessica said too. She gets catapulted into enlightenment, and it lasts a period of time, and then the Buddha said, then we drift in and out of enlightenment.
And that's what Mike said about the Turd Fest.
Yep, that's right. That's right. That's right. So I thought we could just quickly
tell us about the app.
Yeah, the app and the new book. Let me touch base on the new book first, because we're getting constant emails about it. And I'm excited about it now. We're just finishing the editing. The publisher is PESI, P-E-S-I. And the publisher I've been working with there is a really cool lady named Linda Jackson. And she's a lot like you, Jeremy, like she's so positive and so much fun to work with her. And then the editor, Jenessa Jackson, and I don't know if they're related or not, but we're almost done with the editing. And then they're going to be making announcements. This is February 17th when this podcast comes out. And not too long after that, people can start pre-ordering the book, Feeling Great. I don't have the details on that yet, but it will be released in mid-September is the target date. And
is it coming out in hardback or paperback?
It'll
first?
come out in hardback first, and then a year later in paperback.
And how many will you autograph?
Well, I'll autograph one for you. I'll autograph one for you for sure.
So that they don't send them a bunch to you, and then you autograph them?
Well,
and then mail
actually,
them
all
out?
the people who appear in the book are going to get free autograph copies. People allowed me to use their stories in disguised.
Neat.
I think you're.
I think so.
In disguise
Yeah.
in there. But and then they've hired a New York PR firm, so we'll start doing promotion well ahead of time. So it's exciting.
Really exciting.
And the neat thing about the book Feeling Great, it'll have all of these new developments that I didn't have when I wrote Feeling Good. Feeling Good has been a tremendous success commercially as well as research on it, that it really has pretty potent antidepressant effects for an awful lot of people. But I'm hoping that the new techniques, like the positive reframing and all the new stuff in TEAM, will be even more powerful. But
and just to interject on that really quick, I do think I'm really excited for that to be genuinely available. I tell people about the fantastic experience I had working with Matt May, and they said, "Wow, how can I get that?" And if they live in the area, I said, "You can go see Matt."
Yeah, I'll put his contact info in the show notes.
That's a good idea, yeah. But then, I have people who live in New York, friends who live in New York and other places, and they say, "Oh, how can I learn those techniques?" And I said, "Well, you can buy Feeling Good. That book is great. It's full of great techniques, but it doesn't really have the latest and greatest stuff, which kind of is the amazing accelerant on therapy."
Yeah.
Or people could also buy When Panic Attacks.
Those are all good. Yeah,
They're
really
all good.
But I think the new techniques are going to blow people's minds.
Yeah. And then why are we working on an app?
Well,
and what do we mean by an app? What are we talking about?
How will the app be used by people?
Yeah, so I think the idea would be to have a cell phone application that could be the most effective treatment for depression ever created, if we can pull it off, which I think we can. Hopefully, so go on.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I think David's techniques are really good, and you can learn a lot by reading about them. Those books that we just talked about are awesome, and I think Feeling Great is going to be an awesome book too. But some of the techniques it's really helpful to see examples, to get kind of detailed training in them. And so we're hoping the app, I think, will be this sort of like incredible training ground where people can really see in detail how do these techniques work and have an interactive experience that teaches them. I know David's done some research on the importance of homework in therapy.
Yeah.
What did the research say about
that? The research, I was trying to do research in Philadelphia to find out why is it that all the forms of therapy that exist right now aren't very good, including cognitive therapy for depression. Fewer than half the people treated with all current treatments, any current treatments, fewer than half even get a 50% reduction in symptoms. And that's not very good.
If you just listen to what Jeremy's story. You went to 3 therapists. You went to 2 therapists and felt still depressed. And I imagine you might have started feeling hopeless and
I was very hopeless, extremely hopeless.
And then the third, so he had 2/3.
Yeah. And so I did a lot of research and looking at all these fancy things. I was doing structural equation modeling on all the data that we had on our patients in Philadelphia and what caused them to get better or not get better. And then it kind of, a really obvious thing jumped out and explained all the variability in outcomes, and that was motivation and resistance. And we found ways to measure resistance at intake, and all the patients with high resistance levels, low motivation levels, failed to improve, and pretty much 100% of the patients who did homework and who didn't have that intense resistance improved or completely recovered in the first 12 weeks of therapy. So that was the first big breakthrough, that resistance actually is the first effect, and the first thing in the world literature that's been proven to have causal effects on depression, because all the other theories have never panned out. All the biological causes and the psychological causes, the presumed causes of depression, none of them's ever been confirmed. And the only thing that's been confirmed, and there's 5 independent studies now, including one I recently published that we did at Stanford in the inpatient unit, show a massive causal effect of resistance or motivation. Those are the opposite sides of the same coin. That has a huge effect on recovery from depression. But what's really cool is that in team therapy, then with the help of you, Rhonda, and Jill Levitt, and Helen Yenny-Komchian, and Danielle Levy, and Jacob Towery, and all the people that I teach with all of you in our Tuesday Stanford group, I've been able to develop these awesome techniques to quickly bring resistance to conscious awareness and melt it away. And that's why we're now seeing this almost impossibly rapid recovery from depression and all of the anxiety disorders as well.
David, will you put the citation for the recent research you said you just published in the show notes?
I can put a whole bunch of research studies in there, all the studies that led up to the development of team therapy. Yeah.
So will the app be used for homework?
Well, see, the app, see, I've had the dream, and that's why it was so cool that Jeremy contacted me, because we've been both dreaming the same dream, and because the research showed that the book Feeling Good, more than 50 or 60% of the people who you hand it to who are depressed will be recovered or dramatically improved in 4 weeks. But I've always thought, if I could get a digital interactive thing, I could develop something even more powerful than that, even more effective than human therapists, because we can go right to the point and teach people just what you need to know without I was going to say all the BS that therapists do, but I won't say it because it's so insulting. But when I was a therapist, I was trained to do all this BS that never helped anybody. It was, psychodynamic or psychoanalytic or this or that. But now we know what really works for people, and we can put that in an interactive app and train people really quickly how to change the way you think and feel. And I've been wanting to do this for 40 years. I've had the fantasy, I've been mapping it out in my mind. If I could just get someone to help me create an electronic tool, I think we could develop something that could help millions of people around the world, even more than my book Feeling Good, who could go online and learn to change.
Yeah, because like you had said, Jeremy, people around here can go to awesome therapists like Matt May, and there are team therapists throughout the world. But there are a lot of places where there aren't team therapists, and they could go to your app.
Yeah, and some people might not even be able to afford a Matt May or a high-powered.
You're saying some people
therapist.
Can't afford hundreds of dollars an hour in therapy?
Yeah, exactly.
That's
exactly.
Really, that's true and sad.
And it breaks my heart. I haven't charged anyone for therapy in more than 25 years. It's just the whole idea is just sad and a turn off for me.
But I'm thinking that, Jeremy, you said. I keep coming back to you. You worked with Matt May for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I don't know how, like 2 or 3 sessions for two.
I think we did. I think we probably did 4 sessions in those 2 weeks.
4 sessions, so 8 hours.
So 8 hours, yeah.
And then you felt better. So
yeah.
how much more cost effective is that, even if Matt has a high hourly, versus years and 12 or 8 to 12 years of therapy with someone that was not as effective?
Well, I think Matt's totally worth it if you can afford it, but I'm hoping that the app will be like getting private treatment from David. Who's also pretty awesome.
Right.
And I think, and that's really, as we've been developing it, I think that's kind of coming together because it has David's voice, and it's not some dry academic thing. We're really making it exciting and fun.
So it's your voice?
And funny. We got some zany stuff. Absurd stuff. We're gonna put that quiz questions with absurd questions, answers. You have to choose the right one. We're just having fun with it. But I'm just grateful to be working with you.
So it's
Jeremy.
Not just reading. But you're going to be here. So someone won't just be reading stuff on the app, but they're going to be listening to your voice?
Oh.
Yeah. But although we've also created, and we're going to be working on, we're almost done with it, a really fantastic introductory thing, which includes reading and video clips and measuring how you feel at the beginning and end of a kind of a killer overview class. We were going to record it. We actually recorded it, but we didn't like the way the voice recordings were going. And then people were saying, wow, this transcript is so fantastic. So we'll post that for people soon too. But we don't have any call to action for you folks. We just want you to know that we're working on this stuff, and when we have something for you to go and become a beta tester or take a look at the app that we're creating and check it out. Tell us what you like, what you don't like, because we want to learn from you, just as we hope to teach you the things you need to change the way you think and feel, and to break out of a bad mood like depression and anxiety and feeling inadequate and down in the dumps. So like the woman Jessica and Jeremy, you can experience joy and self-esteem and wake up and say it's great to be alive, and that's what we're hoping to share with all of you who are listening to this podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think maybe it would be good to go over some of the things that we think the app can do that it's going to be really unique to the app. Things will be hard to do in other places, like demonstrating the acceptance paradox, or some of the interactive exercises, even doing externalization of voices. Yeah.
There's a lot of things that I've written about in my books, but it's like hearing or seeing is believing. Like the acceptance paradox, it is enlightenment. Like when you do externalization of voices, I can say, and with audiences, I can now, usually when I do a workshop for mental health professionals, we do this exercise with externalization of voices. It takes about 20 minutes, and typically 75% of the people raise their hands and say they experience enlightenment. And it's really mind-blowing, but you see, we demonstrate it live. They can see people doing this acceptance paradox and externalization of voices, and then they can experience it personally. And we can bring those kind of experiences to life in the app. We can, I just recorded 2 really mind-blowing video clips with this fellow, Bradley, who suffered from decades of horrific abuse and thought he was a hopeless case, and then he beats up on himself with horrible labels, like he calls himself a weirdo and a loser, and his parents and his older brother told him that all the time when he was growing up. And now he can kill those thoughts with a be specific, externalization of voices, let's define terms. And he let me record a couple of them, and I think he'll let us, show. I might even do them on podcasts, so people could learn, be specific, and define terms, and hear somebody going actually into enlightenment and stuff like that.
It's going to be really awesome. And then finally, this will be the first product David's released that absolutely will guarantee that people will do the written exercises.
Yeah, because if you don't, you get bumped off of the app. You can't just be passive. You've got to interact. We say, write down what you think here. If they don't type things in there, say, good, sayonara, sweetheart.
Really? Oh my gosh. So the
cool?
consequence for not doing the homework is getting kicked, or doing the work
well, you
on the
can't
app?
progress.
You just won't be able to advance.
You get thrown off?
Well, you just won't be able to go past that step. We're going to require you to complete the work to go to the next step.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
And homework's so important to actually getting better. We could listen to David talk forever, but if you don't write down your own negative thoughts and challenge them, you'll never fully get there.
That's right.
Yeah.
So you're going to demonstrate methods. You're going to
do agenda setting, assessment of resistance, positive reframing. Everything's going to be in there.
Testing. Yeah, testing. We've already built that part.
And we'll even show them which techniques to use.
Like with which cognitive
with
distortions?
their thoughts.
With their own thoughts?
Based on the distortions in their thoughts.
Wow.
Yeah.
And stuff. So, oops, I slapped myself inadvertently. My papers fell off my lap.
And then there's some, once we have, we're going to try to make something really killer to start. But then once we have something even basic, one of the things that I'm really excited about will be the first time when therapy can kind of be optimized at large scale. If we have users going through the app every week, we'll be able to see, okay, well, we're working for this group of people over here, but there's some segment that it's not getting through to, and we'll be able to diagnose in real time why is that happening, what's going on with those people, and then just release a new update that will fix that problem.
Yeah, the implications for research are mind-boggling, because if we can get 5, 10, 15,000 people signed up and using this thing every day, and we're gathering data constantly, and then I can plug them into structural equation modeling programs and begin to get fantastic cause and effect information, validate new tools in a single day instead of the 5 to 8 years it typically has taken me in the past. The implications are pretty tremendous, but the most and we'll find it will do causal research. What causes depression? What causes rapid recovery? What part of the app do people think suck? What part of the app do they suddenly brighten up and begin to feel better? It's a game changer for.
Wow, it sounds really, really, really exciting.
Yeah.
We're excited.
Yeah.
So when you say it's a game changer for research, where's the data being collected?
Well,
on the app.
It'll all go into just like every other app. It'll all go into all the users as they use it. We'll be storing information like, hey,
they'll be taking tests and stuff.
It'll be stored in their own phone or in your.
Well, it's going to be we're going to consult with lawyers to figure out the best way to do that and what information should be collected en masse and what should be kind of kept locally in the user's device. So we want to make sure we do a good job. We don't do anything that someone doesn't consent to. We want all of our users to be enthusiastic about being part of this research process. But I think there won't mostly be personally identifiable information. It'll mostly be like, what's your score or something like that. And then that will enable us to put that all into a database and do research.
So how will
on
you
it.
protect people's privacy?
Yeah, so we won't associate any of that data with their names.
Or any of their
identifiable information.
Could people opt out of being part of the research part?
Probably. When I had my clinic in Philadelphia, we did research on everybody, and we ran it through the Human Subjects Committee at the hospital, and they approved it. And then people had to sign a consent form. And out of 700 patients, I think only 2 or 3 said they didn't want the data used. We were told that your data will be pooled anonymously with other people to find out more about the causes and effective treatments for depression. People were very generous and happy to let us do that, and I'm sure we'll run into the same thing here. But if somebody doesn't want to be involved in the research, they'll certainly have that option. We're not interested in hurting or coercing anybody. We're interested in a joyous, fantastic experience for everyone.
Yeah, and we'd want to store all the information in the most secure way possible, which means kind of encrypting it, putting it in a form where it couldn't be captured and stored safely.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Because instead of 700 people you're talking about 700 million people.
Yeah, or something.
Potentially.
We'd be happy with half that number.
We'd be happy to start out with 10.
So are you planning, or is one of the consequences of this app going to be putting therapists out of business?
I don't think that's going to ever be the case. I think that people love the human connection, and there will be always a tremendous demand for someone to sit down and talk to face who can provide support. But what we hope to do is make human therapists a lot more effective. And there's actually a companion project that we're kind of started, really, that's been picked up on by my son and Alex Clark and Maor Katz, tools to help make the therapist more effective. But that's what we're going to be doing as well, and so we see ourselves as helpers. If people aren't in therapy, we hope to just help them because they can't afford it, they can't find good therapy. If people are in therapy, we hope to accelerate their recovery and to be helping the therapist, making the therapist far more effective. Our motto there will be: send your patients to our app, we'll cure them, and you can take the credit.
Yeah. Well, and then in addition, I think they're being able to refer people from the app to therapists who know these techniques would be really helpful too. There'll be a lot of people. We're going to work really hard to make all of the teaching work for people without a therapist, but there'll be some people who still need someone to work with on externalization of voices or the double standard technique or all these role play techniques. And if we have a list of killer therapists, then we can be referring to people.
Yeah, I think, no matter how fantastic the app is, there will be people who can't do it on their own. We hope to be better than feeling good, but we're not going to get up to 100%. And so we'll be generating a tremendous number of referrals, the people needing referrals. And so we hope, and this is just our plans, but we hope to have paid help, that you can get to go to a therapist and get help, and we wouldn't generate income from that. That would be conflict of interest, but just here's some people who know how to use these skills, so there may be tremendous referrals generated. But then also I have a colleague who's been coming on the Sunday hikes, Vivek, who's from India, and I can't remember his last name, but he's totally wonderful and totally brilliant. And he really knows TEAM inside and out. And I think we'd see if we can generate a free support group as well, that people could go and get help, say, how do I challenge this negative thought or this self-defeating belief, and collaborate with others using the app.
An online support group?
Yeah. Something electronic. But we have to think all these things through. And
that could be amazing. Like, I remember when I was in my therapy with Matt initially, we would do some role play techniques, and then I actually, to get additional practice, I did it with friends of mine. I would say, oh, this is how you set it up, and we'd go back and forth on the thought, and it was really helpful. Yeah.
We have actually a fellow who comes to our Tuesday group. He's not a mental health professional, but he's a physician. You know him, Mark.
Mm-hmm.
And he's developed his own support group, 5 Secrets, with friends of his.
Oh, that's amazing.
And they've been doing for years. They get together once a week and they practice the 5 Secrets of effective communication.
Oh, I was at a wedding this Sunday, and I was talking in 2 separate conversations. People were telling me about some of their relationship struggles, and I talked to them a little bit about my experience with the book Feeling Good Together, and they were both super enthusiastic. I think they would love a support group like that.
That's fantastic. So did you say you recommended a book for them to purchase on Amazon?
Yeah, it's a book called Feeling Good Together.
Feeling Good Together.
And then the author's name is, what's his name? What's the author's name? Do you remember the author's name?
DB.
Okay. David Burns, yes. Uh-huh.
Okay,
well,
anyway,
thank you so much
for
that's a really important point to make. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
This has been another episode of the Feeling Good podcast. For more information, visit Dr. Burns' website at feelinggood.com, where you will find the show notes for this episode under the podcast page. You will also find archives of previous episodes and many resources for therapists and non-therapists. We welcome your comments and questions. If you want to support the show, please share the podcast with people who might benefit from it. You could also go to iTunes and leave a 5-star rating. The theme music is Gypsy Jazz in Paris, 1935, composed and performed by Brett Van Donsel. I am your host, Rhonda Borowski. We hope you enjoyed this episode. I invite you to join us next time for another episode of the Feeling Good podcast.